Bonsoir à tout le monde. Merci pour votre patience. Nous allons commencer cette session qui est dédiée aux femmes africaines dans le climat. Son Excellence, la deuxième dame du Ghana, Madame Samira Bawumia. Son Excellence, Madame l'ambassadeur du Ghana en France, Madame Anna Bosman. Mesdames et messieurs les chefs des délégations de l'Afrique du Sud, du Bénin, de la Côte d'Ivoire, du Rwanda, bienvenue. Madame Elisabeth Moreno, distingués invités en vos rangs et grades respectifs, chers participants, mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir. Permettez-moi de vous dire un mot de bienvenue dans la langue de Molière, bien que cet événement soit en anglais. Et c'est avec beaucoup d'émotion que je prends la parole ce soir. Je suis ravie de voir une salle pleine. Je me présente, je suis Carole Tanqueux, directrice associée du bureau d'études Est de Service, qui est spécialisée en environnement, énergie et durabilité, qui est basée au Cameroun. Cette idée de cette initiative est née après le sommet africain du climat qui a eu lieu à Nairobi en septembre 2023. Nous avons rencontré des femmes extraordinaires, exceptionnelles. Plusieurs sont dans la salle et pour nous, c'était important qu'il y ait un espace où on puisse partager avec vous, même si c'est un temps très court, les solutions que ces femmes apportent, les innovations qu'elles nous apportent, et raison pour laquelle nous remercions les organisateurs de ChangeNOW de nous avoir permis d'organiser cette première session de African Presence Initiative à ChangeNOW. Bonsoir à tout le monde et je ne serai pas longue. Je vais passer la parole à Marianne Kaindi qui va vous dire un peu pourquoi nous sommes là et ce que nous espérons vous laisser à la fin de cette session. Et je suis heureuse de dire nous y voilà. Comme vous pouvez l'imaginer, nous avons travaillé sans relâche pour être ici aujourd'hui et nous avons la chance d'avoir été honorés par de grandes dames que vous allez découvrir tout à l'heure. Merci. Marianne, you have the floor.
Thank you. So after the language of Molière, I'm going to go to Shakespeare. Your Excellency, the Second Lady of Ghana, Madame Samira Bawumia, Her Excellency, Madame Bosman, Ambassador of Ghana in Paris, the delegations of Rwanda, Benin, Ivory Coast, and South Africa, all protocols observed, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and karibu sana. So my name, as Cara said, is Marianne. I'm a social impact entrepreneur. So echoing what Cara has said, I would like to express once more our gratitude for your presence here. So our wish would be that the key takeaways from today's discussions be turned into concrete action points. We are all activists. There is no exception. So we are the solutions. And if I might inspire myself in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, I would tell you, be the change that you want to see in the world. So what change do you want to see and how do you want to effect that change? In this event, you'll hear from powerful African women, both from the diaspora and from the continent, who are instigators of very innovative solutions where impactful changes are derived. As Cara said, this event, organized in collaboration with the ChangeNOW team, Garance, Guillaume, Maël, and I can name but a few, could not, and to whom we owe the event's success. So with these few words, please allow me to take this opportunity and to welcome Rose and Garance from ChangeNOW for a very brief word.
Your Excellency, the Second Lady of Ghana, Samira Baboumia, Her Excellency Ambassador Anna Bosman of Ghana in France, delegations from Rwanda, Benin, Ivory Coast, and South Africa, all protocol observed, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is a great honor for me to open this event dedicated to women in Africa. Before we begin, allow me to express my heartfelt gratitude to Marianne and Carol for their dedication and contribution to this exceptional event. And welcome to ChangeNOW, the largest event of solutions for the planet. A global gathering of investors, media, corporates, CEOs, elected representatives, and institutionals, but also athletes, artists, experts, activists, and the general public. People who don't usually cross paths. It's a unique moment in the year when polarization can still be broken and people who might be presented as opposites can be seen talking together. Africa holds a central place in ChangeNOW journey. This year, we are honored to welcome Ivory Coast, COP15, South African and Rwanda official delegations. We aim to reinforce ChangeNOW's connections with African ecosystem. And you, especially, you represent a beacon of hope for Africa, as your continent is dramatically impacted by climate change, and with women being its first victims, but also its first true drivers of change. So often, behind positive initiatives stands a woman. So this is the occasion to celebrate women and to contribute to reshaping the narratives. To achieve a meaningful and significant impact, strong advocacy and increased visibility on major platforms are essential. Together, we can bridge structural inequalities between men and women and amplify the voices of promising changemakers. Each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. As Maya Angelou said, American writer, artist, and human rights activist. At ChangeNOW, we support and we empower women. We have a dedicated program that we initiated, dedicated to women for change. So I invite you to see this event and your time here as the starting point of new stories of positive impact for women, with maybe fundraisings, new collaborations, new connections. And yet, let yourself be touched also by the summit, but what you will discover, what you will listen to tonight. Last year, before the event, 56% of the participants said they felt able to act. After the event, they were 80%. So I wish you, after this evening, to be one of those 80%. And I wish you a fantastic and fruitful discussions and encounters. And I am happy to introduce you to Garance, who initiated and brilliantly coordinated the Women for Change initiative. Please, Garance, could you say a few words about this initiative?
All protocol observed, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you so much for all being here tonight. Thank you so much for Carol and Marianne. You're amazing, very inspiring women. Just a few words about the Women for Change initiative, because it's really important. In 2021, we decided that we wanted to create a safe space for women change makers within ChangeNOW. It's very important, not just to reveal the power of women, because as Afsat Abiola said on the Women for Change session yesterday, we have the power. So Women for Change is about showcasing this power and bringing together all the potential sponsors that can, change the life of those women by funding, visibility, influence, So this is all about it. Women for Change is about sponsorship. It's about, convincing people in position of power to stand up for women, to share resources, to share influence, to share all those things women change makers desperately need in a growing ecosystem. So Women for Change is about that. And the session was yesterday. It's usually a campaign and an event during the summit. We strongly, strongly recommend you to go see the amazing profiles of this 2024 campaign during the exhibition, just behind the circle stage. And there are some amazing profiles, and we count on you to recommend profiles of change makers we might not have on the radar, because we need them on our radar. We need them because we want to sponsor them. We want to give them this platform. So that's pretty all about it. Have an amazing evening, and thank you so much again for being here.
It's my great honor to invite Madame Elisabeth Moreno, former Minister Delegate for Gender Equality, Diversity and Equal Opportunities, and founder of an association, 8 Mars, La Puissance du Lien, among other hats, and chair of the foundation Femmes Numériques, which encourage the feminization of digital professions. Madame Elisabeth Moreno, for your keynote. Thank you.
Hello. How are you doing? Pretty hot. Climate change, maybe, no? Okay, so Her Excellency Samira Bawumia. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and thank you very much to the organizers for this wonderful opportunity to speak at this ChangeNOW forum. Tonight, we are going to focus on the actions that African women are leading to make Africa more resilient and sustainable. And I would like to express my gratitude to Marianne, indeed, and Carole. I think Gahan said, you are powerful ladies, and it's really true. We can applaud them. I am very honored to share my thoughts on issues very close to my heart: gender equality, green entrepreneurship, and most importantly, the indisputable role of women, African women, in the transition. Our world stands at a precipice, facing dual existential threats: the degradation of our natural environment and the persistent inequality that divides our societies. These challenges are totally interconnected, and as such, they demand a holistic and inclusive approach to be effectively led. I have to say that I strongly, strongly believe that women not only have a critical role to play in this critical moment, but it's also their responsibility. Hence, the empowerment of African women and their inclusion in global dialogues about climate and sustainability is not merely beneficial, it is an imperative. I have to confess something here. When I think about the adversity African women have and still are facing, I tend to say that they do not need to be empowered. African women are super powerful. They just need the space to express their power and talent. And that's exactly what we are trying to build all together. And the world desperately needs these feminist talent to restore balance. The problem is that those in power, mostly men, fail to acknowledge that. And we're going to make sure they understand it. Why is this problem becoming urgent? For those of you who know me in this audience, you may know that I'm fundamentally an optimistic and enthusiastic person. However, being optimistic and enthusiastic does not mean being blind to the challenges of our time and their impact on the minority of our planet, namely women. As some people accuse us of exaggerating the injustice women are facing in the world, as a new illness called gender fatigue is hanging over our heads, and as numbers speak louder than any statement, I will share with you 3 figures. During the 2004 tsunami that hit countries in the Indian Ocean, 70% of the deceased people were women. 70%. Women represent 80% of climate displacement. The national agency in charge of ecological transition in France, ADEME, says that by 2050, there will be 1 million new jobs created, but women are almost anywhere or nowhere. As an example, we have less than 30% women in the energy sector. Now, as sometimes images speak better than any number, close your eye for just a second, and remember those impressive pictures of powerful women deciding about the future of our planet with not a single woman. Do you see them? You remember how confident they were? They were full of self-esteem, but just totally lacking the awareness to realize that 50% of the human population was lacking. It was not 10 years ago. It was just last year in Dubai. Regarding Africa, the situation is even more critical. Firstly, because African women, particularly those in rural areas, are among the most affected by the impacts of climate change. They are the custodians of natural resources, the primary caregivers, and the ones who bear the brunt of environmental degradation. Yet, paradoxically, they have often the least involved in the decisions that affect their lives and communities. By not including African women in these critical discussions, we miss out on vital perspectives and solutions that could definitely enhance our collective response to environmental challenges. Moreover, sustainable development cannot be achieved without gender equality. The two are intrinsically linked. Empowering women leads to more robust, more resilient communities, which are better equipped to implement sustainable practices and adapt to climate change. African women have unique knowledge and experiences that are crucial for crafting effective and sustainable solutions. Their leadership and participation can transform economies and make our response to climate challenges more effective. But empowering women, African women, in the context of sustainable development and climate action is not just about inviting them at the table. It involves dismantling systemic barriers that limit their access to education, financial resources, and decision-making platforms. It involves changing societal norms that restrict their potential and silencing the voices that question their capabilities. As a woman, entrepreneur, and advocate for gender equality, I have witnessed firsthand the transformative power of inclusion. African women are not just beneficiaries of climate action and sustainable development. They are powerful agents of change. Their innovation, resilience, and leadership can drive progress, but only if we provide the space, support, and resources they need. We have plenty of great examples of women all around the African continent who are willing to change the status quo. I'm thinking about Laure Egbe, who is leading the way on water, sanitation, and hygiene. Managing Director of Agrima, Coop Bud. Marie Niaruai, from Kenya who has founded a circular economy startup, and she's also the winner of What Design Can Do, No Waste Challenge, and also Ismaine Ahamide, who created the NGO Destin en Main to empower young women and poor single mothers. In 2021, she won the Women Impact Entrepreneur from the European Union. I also deeply believe that initiatives like Women for Sustainable Energy and Climate Action are very important to dismantle existing barriers and facilitate women active and impactful participation in global forums, conferences, and policy-making processes, processes where their voices are crucial, yet very often silent. We must recognize that the stark underrepresentation of African women, hailing from both the continent itself and the global diaspora, in these pivotal areas, not only undermines their individual and collective potential, but also impedes global progress towards sustainable solutions. The role of women to forge strong connections between Africa and Europe is also fundamental. I would like to say that the insight and invaluable expertise they have to share, particularly in the domains of climate change, sustainability, and renewable energy, is very precious. If I had a call to action for everyone here, government, businesses, civil society, and individuals, it would be a call to recognize the critical role that African women play in sustainable development and to empower them as leaders and decision makers. The time to act is now. Our effort to combat climate change and achieve sustainable development must be inclusive if we want it to be really effective. Let us harness the collective power, wisdom, and spirit of African women to pave the way for a more sustainable, equitable, and prosperous future for all. If we really want to empower the African women, we need a structured approach around several key strategies. We need to address cultural barriers that significantly impede progress. Like everywhere in the world, in many parts of Africa, traditional roles and expectations can limit women's participation in the public and professional spheres, particularly in male-dominated fields like science and technology. This cultural backdrop can deter women from pursuing careers in environmental sectors or from taking a leadership role in their communities. We need comprehensive training programs that equip women with the necessary skills and knowledge to excel in environmental and sustainability sectors. We need more platforms like Women for Sustainable Energy and Climate Action for networking and collaboration, enabling these women to connect with peers, mentors, and leaders in the field. We need advocacy for the inclusion of African women in leadership positions within environmental initiatives and at decision-making tables. And even more importantly, we need money. We need cash. We need capital. We need banknote. We need fund, credit, and finance. And that's the reason why I have decided to join Ring Capital, which is an impact fund, which ambition is to bring capital to every single person who has an impactful project that has a positive effect on social and environmental evolution of our world. Bye. Thank you. If we put the money at the right place, the world will definitely change. By championing the active involvement of African women in these critical discussions, we are not just addressing gender inequality. We are simply enhancing the effectiveness of our global response to environmental challenges. We are calling on organizations, policymakers, and individuals alike to join us in this endeavor to support and amplify the voices of African women in shaping a greener, more sustainable future for all. In closing, I wish to reiterate my gratitude for this platform and for your attentive listening. Your Excellency, Mrs. Ambassador, having leaders like you attending this event today means a lot. Because empowering people is not always from the north to the south. It's also from the south to the north. Thank you very much.
Je prends la suite. Thank you very much, Elisabeth. Tell me about gender fatigue. I'm saying this because I'm Nadia Landemaine. I am the moderator for the 2 panels this evening. And I'm also the board chair and the outreach lead of a non-profit organization, which is a women's network. We have over 4,000 members, 55% in Europe, 45% in Africa, on the continent. And if you like figures, I will give you some. Besides, we have 16 circles and event leaders organizing all sorts of initiatives. We had 400 live and in-person events since 2021. And it's really active. We have WhatsApp groups, which really makes the communication very powerful across Europe and across Africa. So this Linen is an independent gender diversity and inclusion initiative. It's operating under the Linen.org umbrella. We are a member-centric, diverse, international network of women and men allies as well, supporting and empowering women to achieve their ambitions. I'm just going to finish, before I introduce the panel. I didn't know actually that this sentence was from a Ghanaian statesman. I'm not African because I was born in Africa, but because Africa was born in me. So this is, I hope I'm not too wrong with the pronunciation, Kwame and Nkrumah. Yeah, yes, beautiful. So this actually applies to me, but actually I was born in Africa. So, and Africa was, born in me. Anyway, so I would like to call the esteemed, panelists, sorry. So we have Carole Tonqueux. Yeah, go ahead, yes. We have Dr. Anino Emuwa. Anino, are you there? Yeah, okay, sorry. We have Merem Tahar. We have Caroline or Caroline Mbumbubu. And Dr. Claire Murugande. Thank you for joining us this evening. So I think you had a few words. Sorry, I'll let you sit down. Carole told you that she's from Cameroon and based in Nairobi. She's the associate director of a consultancy firm specialized in environmental and social governance, ESG. Energy and sustainability. The company is called S2 Services SARL in French. Right. Then we have Anino. She's an international management consultant and the founder of Avandis Consulting. She's a strategy and financial advisory firm, which is a strategy and financial advisory firm based in France. Anino is a firm believer in entrepreneurship as a driver of economic development. She's also an advocate for gender balance in leadership. Thank you for joining us. Caroline is the Chief Executive Officer of All On, whose mission is to increase access to commercial energy products and services for underserved and unserved off-grid energy markets in Nigeria. Wonderful. And a very determined person. Did I miss? Merem is a third-year private law student at the University of Reims, which is in Champagne, for the ones who don't know. What a lovely place. She's also studying a university degree in distressed business law at the Sorbonne. She's, I think, the youngest. She's already accumulated an impressive number of experiences in the world of association and humanitarians, such as participation at the COP27. Thank you. Brilliant. Then I have Dr. Claire Morigande. She's an inspiring personality with a vision to amplify social impact through audio storytelling. She's a captivating speaker and outstanding moderator. You should have been here tonight. Next time, yes. Take note. She's also the creator and host of a multi-award nominated podcast, Narratives of Purpose. I love that one. So Narrative of Purpose showcases unique stories of global change makers in thought-provoking conversation around meaningful and complex topics, such as youth empowerment, health equity initiatives, and sustainable food system of the future. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us tonight. So the panel one is about African Women's Network and initiatives. So, I have to find my questions. Right, sorry. Oh dear, I've got too many paper. Yeah, sorry. I'm here. Yes. So I would start with Carole. What is the story behind your initiative? Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia, for giving me the floor. It's never easy to start talking, and I think I'm going to be the only one in the room with a strong French accent, as you.
Yeah, I know. Stronger than mine, actually.
Yes, stronger than yours. So, why Waseka? Back home in Cameroon, I noticed that, okay, the microphone.
Yeah, closer,
okay.
Closer.
So back home in Cameroon, I noticed that we have well-educated women, particularly in STEM, and for some reason, we have only few women at leadership and management position. I couldn't understand why. I worked for several years in Cameroon, then Morocco, and was relocated in Kenya. And in Kenya, I was highly inspired by the ecosystem, the energy ecosystem, because there are so many networks of professional female, whether in geothermal, in solar, and I was like, okay, so this is how they do it, right? This is the reason why we have so many Kenyan ladies leading. So I founded, that was the reason why I founded a platform of female professionals in the energy, environmental sphere and climate for Central Africa. And the idea is, first of all, to gather professionals in that space, but professionals from the private sector and public sector. Waseka was founded in March 2021. It's the name of the association. And thank you so much, Madame Moreno, for acknowledging what we are trying to do at our level best. And it's about supporting professional women through career development activities. And it's also an intergenerational platform where we have students, early career, mid-career, and senior. And the other particularity is that we connect our members who are on the continent to female professionals who are in Europe, in Canada, in USA, or in Australia. So this is really what we are trying to do. It's about women working together. It's about connecting women. And there are two ways of seeing climate change. It's true, it's challenging, but it also can be an opportunity. And when we are talking about ecological transition, it represents opportunities for young African women. So this is really the idea behind this platform that we launched, and this is what we are doing in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Carole. Dr. Anino, so what is the story behind your initiative?
Good evening, everybody. Delighted to be here, Your Excellencies. I'm the founder of two women's networks, 100 Women at Davos and Africa Women CEOs Network. You see, as a student of economics very many decades ago at the London School of Economics, I heard about the World Economic Forum, and I was totally fascinated by this leadership gathering of the world's most powerful. Actually, I wasn't fascinated, I was horrified. I was horrified at the thought that we had generally male leaders from the advanced countries who were deciding things that would affect our continent. Fast forward a couple of decades later, and I actually found myself invited, surprisingly, there. And when I arrived there and looked around, didn't see very many like me. That is, one, a woman, and secondly, an African one. I picked up my app, I looked at the names, and I didn't see one African businesswoman from my country and very few from the continent. I found this incredibly troubling. Not simply from the perspective of equality, but because the World Economic Forum and the World Bank tell us that with equality in the labor force, that the economies of our continent can increase by approximately close to $3 trillion by 2030. So that was that on the one side. I was working with female entrepreneurs already in the various African countries that I had lived in. And I thought, let's get African women CEOs together. But actually, there were actually mainly Nigerian CEOs together. And this was in 2018. And I got a group of 15 women CEOs into a room to talk about the issues to do with women's leadership and social issues. The reason being is my work with entrepreneurship. What I had always found was that when a woman is running her business, in addition to her performance, she has something that has to do with social impact. Either in addition, she has a foundation, she has a social entity, she has a charity, or she's hiring or training people from underserved communities, in addition to all the other responsibilities. And it was clear that the role of women's leadership is essential in Africa in terms of, one, economic development, but also social impact. So I got the women together in a room. We sat down in a beautiful room, a nice table, and we had a flip chart, and I had this presentation. I mean, they basically kicked me out of the room, right? Because for the first time ever, the group of women had been in a room that was only CEOs, first time ever. And they sat across the room and looked at each other, and all they wanted to do was interact with each other. And it was then called Women CEOs. It was Power Breakfast of Women CEOs. The following year, we went to the UN General Assembly, and I shall not name names here, but they know themselves, who were at the gathering I had for women CEOs there, African women CEOs there, and the quality of the discussion. And to me, it was critically important. As an economist, I came back and I worked with another organization to get the data in terms of women's leadership at CEO level, across the continent. Well, you'll be glad to know, actually, that when it came to the percentage of female CEOs in terms of African women CEOs, we actually performed higher than many advanced countries, actually. So we're actually doing well. Even in venture capital, the amounts going to female entrepreneurs in Africa is actually a little bit higher. But at 3%, we're not celebrating it, right? But it was clear at this point that we needed to have women not just excelling in the country, but excelling and including their voices in decision-making at the tables where decisions are being made globally. And that was when we started to take our women across the world to Davos, to UN General Assembly, to COP, to anywhere where decision makers are there, and not just taking them there as contingent, but actually making sure they get on panels, their voices are heard, that we probably write and we produce something, and that we advocate. So we work with women in the networks, giving them all that they need, but also we work on advocacy, even writing to presidents of Africa and submitting them lists of capable women. Right now, we have probably about 5,000 women CEOs and founders across the continent, and we have a few of them, I believe, in this room. Thank you.
That is wonderful. It's very impressive. Thank you very much. Mehem, so what is the story behind your initiative?
Thank you. I'm a law student, but I'm working in the humanitarian organization with Les Femmes de la Diaspora Tchadienne, Women of Chadian Diaspora, created by my mom, Sadia Oubakar. She is here also. And when you speak about Chad, I think more of you don't know where is Chad. Chad in Central Africa. But we don't speak about the problematic in Chad, because we are the most affected country about climate change. And I'm also the first representative of my indigenous people who are the Tubu in the north of Chad. It's 5 regions, Tibesti, Bolkou, Onedi, Bael, Gazelle, and Kanem. And I'm so frustrated because when we go to the conference, we don't have a lot of African women speak. I was at the COP27 and we have some conference about Somali, and we have nobody in the panel who from Somali. And it's a problematic because all the time we speak about Africa, we don't have someone to speak about us. And it's why I start my engagement. I started 2 years ago. I was at the COP27 after I was at the UN in New York to speak about my indigenous people with the Secretary General of the UN. I was also at the COP28, and now I'm working with the president of the COP15 about youth empowerment, especially in Africa. And with the humanitarian organization, we do a lot of initiative about water accessibility in Chad. We do also some food security. We are working, I will be in Chad working about that with women, because we need to take the initiative to women first. We have a lot of organizations, they do a lot of amazing things. But when you are an organization who want to do finance, we have in the first to talk with local community, because the local community have the solution. They don't just have the voice or they don't have the finance and the problematic. And now it's the first time I have a panel with African women. It's so amazing.
It's great.
And I'm sure we have the initiative. My indigenous people in the north are the women who have incredible initiative, who are very resilient. But I don't really like this more, because it's like we say in Africa we're resilient. It's like we're resilient. It's okay. We have to do with that. We have to do with climate change. It's okay. It's like sometimes we don't have to say we need help. We need help. It's okay to ask, we need help, but we need to work together. And it's important to make youth at the heart of decision, because we speak all like, okay, they are youth, let's talk after. but it's your future. You don't have the choice to speak about the future without us. And it's very important to take the youth in the center of decision. And I think we have to work together, and most especially in Chad. We speak about Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Ghana, but we forget a lot of time in Chad. And I'm sure after this conference, we'll see about the situation of Chad, how it's amazing we can do in Chad, and maybe to do some collaboration together, because the power, it's together. We cannot do this alone. It's impossible. Thank you.
Thank you. Caroline. Sorry, Caroline. That's the power of collaboration. Yes, indeed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. What a pleasure being here. Thank you so much, Excellencies, and all protocols observed. My name is indeed Caroline Bumbu. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Holon. I actually joined this initiative as the first female CEO. Quick background on Holon. Holon is an impact investment funder out of Nigeria. Nigeria, a country where 83 million people do not have access to electricity. Yet, the powerhouse when it comes to Sub-Saharan Africa, the biggest country. So indeed, there is a problem. And at Holon, we're all about finding solutions. We're all about making sure that we help with the necessary investments to bridge the energy access gap. But definitely, we do it with a very intentional focus on investing in women. If there's one thing we believe in, is that we have to be unapologetic and very intentional when it comes to ensuring that women are put at the forefront and have indeed access to funding. Thank you, Mrs. Moreno. You did say it. We are strong. We have the solutions. What we need is the money. You said it right, quite well. So this is what we believe in ensuring, that the funds do get to the women who are at the forefront. Not only they actually bear the brunt of the ecological challenges that we face, but because they bear the brunt, they know what solutions to bring forward. So going back to the word that I said, being unapologetic about it, we have dedicated funding platforms that have gender lenses as criteria. We do actually look at businesses that have women not only at the board level, at the C-suite level, but even on the technical side, because that's another important thing. Too often, we realize that we'll have women in very specific areas of company, which is great. We do need more women on comms and marketing and so on, but we also have women in STEM. So what do we do to ensure that the women who have the technical abilities and who want to pursue more STEM-like roles are provided these opportunities? Well, that's another thing we do. We do not wait for companies to invest in. We go back to education as well. I like to say, start them young. Actually, as early as possible, look into the educational system. So that's another thing we pride ourselves in doing. We actually have given countless of grants to different educational institutions, tertiary level and even lower, to make sure that there are specific programs dedicated to bringing women into STEM. Because when you start as young, then you can make sure as they grow, the funnel continues, and you will then find them at all levels of the different decision-making management in their companies. And that's important because, as we know, due to the changes that we have now in terms of climate change and the energy sector, lots more jobs are going to become available, lots more jobs. So how do we make sure that not only we prepare them for the jobs of today, but the jobs of tomorrow? What am I talking about, the jobs of tomorrow? AI and so on, it's important. So we're already thinking there, we're very forward thinking and making sure that, as I said, we're preparing for the jobs of tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Claire? Dr. Claire Murugande?
Yes.
So, what is the story behind your initiative?
I actually have several stories, but being on this stage, I have one realization, and I think, Carole, Marianne, we have to speak for 2025 because I need to do a podcast about all these women.
Yes,
this
absolutely.
Needs to be captured at some point.
Yes, absolutely.
So the first story I want to tell you basically is about one organization that I also represent here, not only the podcast as was mentioned, which is called PROA. So PROA is the short abbreviation of Professional Women of African Heritage. We are based out of Zurich in Switzerland. This is where I live. And earlier today, before we prepared the speakers to come here, someone asked me where I'm from. And even today, after all these years, I always have to pause and ask myself, how do I answer this question? Because like most of you, probably even all of you here from the diaspora, you don't have one story, right? You've been living in different countries, different continents. And for me, maybe this is special shout-outs to Marianne, I always considered myself as a Kenyan when I moved to Switzerland at the age of around 11, 12 years old, because this was the only country where I had a reference. It's the only country I knew, even though I was not born there. It was not my citizenship. My parents come from Rwanda, but it's a country I never knew because I'm not even born there. I was born in a different country. So basically, PROA is all about harnessing this collective power. All these women who are in the diaspora, mainly in Switzerland, but we are also now moving to expand internationally, and to really take all this collective power and really uplift all the experiences, the unique yet really many experiences that all these women bring together, and how they also participate in the countries of residence, within the economy, in the different industries. So our organization is just about 5 years old. Our founders are sitting right there, if you want to talk to them later. And we have over 90 members. We have more than 20 nationalities and more than 30 professions. And basically, our activities are centered around 3 pillars. So empowering, connecting, and expanding. Although I have to think now about empowering after hearing you. We probably have to reconsider that and name it differently. But basically the point is we have programs like mentorships, which are really, really well recognized, and the members really like them. We connect with different organizations and different companies as well across the country to bring more visibility and more presence to our members. And one event that was quite successful last year, I just want to mention here, is we were able to really create a safe space where we made a film screening of a documentary which was made by a black filmmaker based in Switzerland about being a black woman in a predominantly white environment. So just even the fact of having that conversation, having that open, and having our member participate, but also being able to attract different people and changing the narrative. That's really the goal of this organization, is to say we have the power, we have a voice, and we're a collective. And together, we can actually change the perception, right? And the second story actually pertains to the podcast, and that's exactly also what I'm doing with the podcast, is changing the narrative, right? And just telling people that someone like me, who has such a diverse, as they like to call it, but I mean, it's my background, right? And everybody has their own journey as well. This is really a collective power and something that we can harness, and a voice that we can use to showcase women like this and even more who are really making an impact. And so my message to you today, if you're not already doing it, please challenge the single story. Make sure that you challenge the story that you've been hearing on and time again about the continent, and specifically about African women. Because even if I am here, when I sometimes compare myself, I don't have a startup, I don't have a company, but I truly believe in the power of using our voices, and everything starts with a conversation. And as long as we can sit together and tell people where we're from, our ideas, and what we bring to the discussion and the solutions we have, I think we can win a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Claire. The timekeeper is telling me that we are running short of, time. So I just wanted to just go around and have 3 keywords about your impact, the takeaways, so far. Do you think you can do that? 3 words, Claire.
I can try.
Start. Seems like you're one I can challenge.
I will say storytelling, inclusion, and daring.
Wonderful. Mehem?
I will say youth, ingenious, and African women.
Thank you.
I think mine is intentional,
Yeah.
is to act, and is to be part of a collective.
Ah, brilliant. Carole?
I believe everything has been said, so maybe I'm going to translate in SDGs. So first of all, climate action, SDG 13.
Yeah.
Second of all, partnership, SDG 17. And last but not least, SDG 5, gender equality, having a seat at the table, as Anino just said.
She said that everything has been said, but not everything has really been said. No, truly, I would say the power of collaboration. I think this event really shows it. The idea, I mean, already I know that there are many people who cannot wait to talk to this person or this person because we can already see where we can go together. Collaborations can, collaborative ideas are already coming together, and I think that's so powerful. You know, impact is about being intentional. I said it earlier when I was speaking. We are very intentional. We are very strong-minded. I grew up around strong people. My mother was here, strong women. Strong women are all over around us. So how do we make sure that they have the tools? We are here. Some people are already making it happening. Some people are starting as well. Congratulations for the fund that you've just joined. This is very exciting. We know it's going to go quite far. So please, those who have the fund, find us. We are here. Invest even more.
Yes.
Bring your fund so we can make them go faster. And I think you said one last concept. I'll just say energy. I mean, the energy sector. It's all about connecting people to electricity, but also this collective energy. Let's bring the energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I just want, as the moderator, I just want to add what I feel from you. It's talent, feminine energy, which is good, okay, and strength. Okay. Yes, okay. We have a little bit of a change of a program. So I will ask Dr. Anino to come back on the stage for the fireside chat. Sorry, I was not supposed to do this presentation. Yes. Well, I think I will give you the floor, Dr. Anino. And you present. Yes.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have the great pleasure to have with me tonight Her Excellency, Mrs. Bawumia, to join me on the stage. Madame. The power of female leadership.
Absolutely.
Let me start with a brief introduction. I know that you already know this, but let's start with a brief introduction. Her Excellency, Mrs. Bawumia, the Second Lady of the Republic of Ghana, is a global climate activist. She's an advocate for change. Mrs. Bawumia is known for her extensive humanitarian and advocacy work. She's the founder of the Samira Empowerment and Humanitarian Projects, SEHP, focusing on health, education, and women's empowerment. Additionally, within that, she's the chair of the African Women and Children's Conference. She addresses issues affecting vulnerable groups with an emphasis on climate change. She's a global ambassador for the Clean Cooking Alliance and actively participates in the Health and Energy Platform for Action. Mrs. Samira Bawumia has received recognition for her sustainable development efforts, including the Sea for All 7 for 7 award, amongst others. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
We have a lot to talk about. How are we going to squeeze it into 15 minutes? Well, they tell me 10 minutes, but we are going to try. First of all, our audience would love to know about your work. What inspired your initiative, the AfriWalk conference, and what outcomes do you hope to achieve through this platform for amplifying the voices of women in climate action across Africa?
Well, thank you very much. Let me start by thanking Mariam and Carol. They are amazing. Can we please give them a huge round of applause? They're an embodiment of what we're talking about today. I chanced upon them, or they chanced upon me in Kenya, the Africa Climate Week, and here we are today. They made sure that I participated in today's event. So in 2017, I was made the global champion for the Clean Cooking Alliance. So it took me around the world talking about energy poverty in Africa, talking about how clean cooking is a development issue. It affects education, it's a gender issue. It affects health, it affects development, it affects the environment, and so on and so forth. So that took me to COP, that took me to World Bank conversations, that took me around the world, WHO, all of those places. But then it struck me that within those conversations, especially at COP27, when they started talking about loss and damage, there was something that was missing, which was the who. They were not drilling down to the demographics that were worst affected in the climate change conversations. And we know in Africa, we bear the brunt of climate change, even though we contribute just 4% to the climate change, unfortunately. And the women bear even the greater brunt on the continent. But nobody was talking about it in specific terms. So Africa is bearing the brunt of it, but not specifically that women and children have the greater burden of climate change. So I thought we need to amplify the voices of women and children in this climate change conversation. And not just that, how do we put women and young people at the center of climate action so that the solution, so we're not just saying that we are suffering, but we're saying we want to be part of the conversation, we want to be part of the solution, because of course somebody cannot prescribe a solution for you because you know your problem. And women across the world, and especially in Africa, we are the innovators. We are the ones who carry the burden of society. In fact, according to the UN, 80% of those worst affected by climate change are women and children. So we know what our problem is, and we can be part of the solution. So that is what birthed Africa Women and Children's Conference, to bring together minds, women, show what women can do, and make sure that our voices are heard.
Thank you. There's a couple of stats that you have given which are really critical and important. The first one is that Africa only contributes 4% to global warming, yet we suffer as a continent the most as a region, and that women and children are the most affected. Now, the voice of the female, of women, is really important in this, and there are lots of women who are involved in climate action, but there's still an underrepresentation of women in leadership. Now, with that background, just to ask you, the communique that you published after your AfriWalk, how does it represent, or how can we now take a significant step towards prioritizing the rights and the well-being of women in climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies as leaders?
Right, so just to bring everyone to speed, so at the end of the Africa Women and Children's Conference, which was held last year, there was a communique that was signed by all of the participants from across the continent. And basically, this communique is to say that we are buying into the story, we're here, we are going to be part of it. And part of what we're advocating is for women to be in leadership. So the climate governance, women should be part of climate governance. We should be part of the solutions. We should involve women in local solutions in climate adaptation and mitigation. Unfortunately for Africa, because we are contributing the least to climate change, what we're doing is more of adaptation and not mitigation. So those who are doing the damage, if they stop, then we can adapt, right? Because then the problem stops. But as we're being bombarded with the problem, now we have to also go through transitions. You are prioritizing transitioning from unclean fuels, for instance, to clean energy, or you're trying to see how do you have a green economy when you're still suffering from the effects of climate change. So part of the communique is to say, look, these are the effects on women, but women have to be at the heart of the conversation. We have to be part of the local solutions. We have to be part of the leadership, and the governance around climate action should involve women, i.e. the men shouldn't tell us what we need. We know what we need, and we are best set to solve our problems.
Thank you. You really have emphasized the important and the pivotal role of women. How do we actualize this? What is it that we need to do to make sure that women are empowered as leadership to be part of those solutions that you have talked about and you're advocating for?
Right, so let me start by saying that it's been established that African women are already very powerful, and we don't need to be empowered, but we need to be given a platform. So we need to be supported. So that's the first thing. So we go into communities, how do we help the women? We need to give them financing, because people have a lot of innovative ideas, but they need to translate those ideas into actions and solutions that would work in their communities. And that doesn't happen without financing. So how do we find money for those with those innovative ideas? We also need to provide training and support for African women. So it's the education around climate action. How do we give them the right education? And then, of course, these are the sorts of platforms that we're talking about. Bringing the women in rooms such as this so that we can meet our compatriots, so that we can know what others are doing, and there can be shared learning. We also need to emphasize indigenous knowledge. I'm glad to meet our lovely lady from Chad who is sharing with us her knowledge from her country. Sometimes we want to reinvent the wheel, but we don't need to, because there are solutions in other parts of the continent that we can replicate where we are. There are solutions that are historical, that have worked, that we may have lost, that we need to bring back. So those are the educations that we need in order to put women front and center for climate action. And so having said that, the question now is, how do we give those women the platform? There should be also policy that is an inclusive policy that makes sure that women are at the heart of decision making. And really, the studies show that if women are in decision making, they have more sustainable solutions, and we do better. Our companies are more profitable, and our communities are better served. Our families are better taken care of. So it's a combination of policies, a combination of leadership, and it's a combination of a platform to grow, and then application and sharing of technology, and then, of course, providing financing for the solution.
Thank you. So we talked about innovation, financing innovation, and putting money into the hands of those solutions that women are creating, education in terms of climate change and knowledge sharing, and having women into rooms like this, and importantly, policy changes. Thank you. Now, let's move a little bit to your work as Clean Cooking, at the Clean Cooking Alliance, a global ambassador, and I think that the title that I saw on your flyer was Clean Cooking Champion. Now, so this was last year at the African Climate Summit, and you advocated for comprehensive strategies to address the interconnected issues like climate change, health, women's empowerment, girl-child education, and community well-being. And this was critically important because sometimes we look at these issues in isolation as if they're independent, but you have talked about how interrelated they are. Can you elaborate on any specific solutions and changes you propose to alter the status quo in these areas? A broad question.
There's a lot to do to alter the situation in all of these areas, but as a clean cooking champion, I will zero in on that. Yesterday I was speaking to how when I began my advocacy around clean cooking, people were a bit dismissive because they thought it was about cook stoves and, but clean cooking really encompasses all the developmental goals. Why do I say that? For those who are not aware. Energy poverty is a real issue, it's a developmental issue, it's a gender issue. For women, mostly in Africa, so 2.4 billion women, people across the world do not have access to clean cooking, and about 800 million of those are in Africa. Now imagine a woman who has to wake up every morning, go and collect firewood, how many hours she spends going to collect that firewood, coming to cook on an inefficient cook stove, which means she's spending more time cooking, and then inhaling all the black carbon that is coming out of the smoke, and then having to look after her children, and then look for work. So that time poverty that is spent on cooking alone impacts her economic empowerment. A lot of girls are also involved in that. So the time poverty impacts their education. For most girls, they need to cook for the family before they go to school. And so they'll miss their lessons, or when they come back from school, they need to spend hours cooking for the family or helping the mother to cook for the family. That would impact her time to study and go to school and get a meaningful education. And of course, a majority of household indoor pollution is from unclean cooking. So we see that clean cooking has there's a nexus between health and unclean cooking, so it's an interconnected subject. You can't separate them if you're passionate about development, if you're passionate about gender empowerment, if you're passionate about an equitable society. So for me as a clean cooking champion, I will say that clean cooking is the cheapest, fastest way to achieve the SDGs. So we should focus our energies on that. My dear sister here who's talking about energy, you should look at clean cooking and addressing energy poverty on the continent. Because once we can cook better and cleaner and faster, then our women have free time to be empowered, to get economically empowered, to get access to education. They are healthier, they are happier, and they have longevity and better quality of life. And of course, the society prospers from that. And of course, there's an economy around that as well. So these are all the technology that is coming up. I've seen this morning, I saw a brilliant young lady from Kenya who's doing these clean cook stoves. So there is an economy budding around that as well. So there is a win-win for us in the development space, and who are looking at how do we uplift our women, how do we uplift our communities, because when women are uplifted, the community is uplifted.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for evoking that interconnectedness, and in fact, importantly, how the solutions have impact in so many affairs, in terms of health, in terms of children, young girls going to school, in terms of combating pollution, technology solutions, innovation, a lot packed into one answer, and thank you very much for this. I know that our moderator is telling us that the time is up. We have thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. We appreciate your work in the voice of African women's leadership on this very important topic. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. A round of applause. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you very much, Dr. Anino. So we are going to call the panel number 2 to come on stage. So we have Marianne Kahindi. We have Celeste. Yes, Celeste, are you there? Pauline, are you there? Brilliant. Yeah. And thank you. And Elizabeth. Thank you. Right. This panel number 2 is about green entrepreneurship and social impact. And I think you've heard a lot, since, we started the session. But this is, good examples, amazing examples